I have seen a lot of reviews on Glassdoor.com where people said they had like horrible managers, horrible coworkers, and stuff. That luckily was not the case for me. I had a great manager. She was really nice, but she was also really like encouraging, and she gave me a lot of advice as to how to like interact with the customers better. And she wasn't like, you know, too harsh or like too demanding or anything. So I had a great manager. And my coworkers, for the most part, were very easy to get along with. Most of the girls that I worked with had a lot more experience working there than I did because I was new, and some of them had been working there like a couple of years. So they were willing to help out if there was something I didn't know. Like, I was never afraid to ask them questions or to ask them for help. They were always very willing to help and ask me if I had questions about anything. And if I had questions, they were totally willing to answer. They didn't get like annoyed that I was asking them questions or anything. So I worked with a great manager and great coworkers. Another advantage obviously is money and experience. You don't get paid a lot. You get paid minimum wage, so that's going to vary depending on where you're from. The experience is great too, especially if this is your first job, because like I said, this is another pro, they don't really care if you had experience or not. Because they are aware that most of the people applying for this job are going to be like high school or college age girls that haven't had a lot of experience. And they're one of the few places I know of that will hire regardless of level of experience or if you've had retail experience. So if you're looking for your first job and you haven't had like luck anywhere else, definitely try Justice, because I think you have a really good chance. Like, unless you totally blow the interview, I think you have a really good chance of getting hired for Justice. Definitely, in spite of all the cons that I'm going to list, like in spite of what it's like to work in retail and everything, after it's all over, you can put it on your resume and say that you worked here, and that's going to be a stepping stone to wherever you go next. Because like I said, employers do want to see that you've had other jobs and that you've worked in other places. So Justice is a great like first job type of experience, and it's great experience to put on a resume. You do get an employee discount. You get 40% off, and if there's a sale going on, which a lot of times there are sales going on, they'll actually, if the sale is higher, like if they're having 65% off, you'll actually get like what the customers get. So you'll get 65% off instead of 40% off. But the normal discount is 40% off, and you can also use it at the other stores that company like owns. Like Dress Barn. I don't remember the other ones that they own, but Dress Barn is one of them. So the discount applies to like other stores that they own as well. The job is also great if you like working with kids, because that is their main clientele. It's not always kids coming in to buy the clothes. Sometimes it is like their parents or grandparents coming in to buy, but a lot of kids do come into the store. So if you like working with kids, it's generally like elementary to like young high school age, I would say, that come in. And obviously if you like fashion or if you just like working retail, then that's also a pro. They are actually really good, at least in my experience. They're really good with scheduling and holidays. Like I said, in the interview, I think they'll ask you if you're in school, if you're in college, if you have other jobs or an internship, so that they can work around that. Right after I got hired, I ended up doing an internship, so I couldn't be there on weekdays in the morning. So, you know, my manager basically just told me to write it down like on a sticky note in the scheduling book, not to put me on for those days and times. And she just scheduled someone else. So depending on how nice your manager is, I guess, as long as you like let them know like I can't come in on these days and times, they'll work around it, which is really good because I don't think every place does that. Also, holidays and weekends, they will ask you your preferences, like, because I know some people don't like working weekends, some people don't like working nights, some people do not like working holidays. So they'll ask you your preference, and you may not always get your preference, but I think they do their best to work around your preferences, which again is another thing that not necessarily every place does. And another thing that's at least it was good to me was that the shifts were pretty short, like 4 to 5 hours, because it is like a job where you're on your feet a lot, and I didn't like doing that. So the shorter the shift, the better. That obviously means like less money and stuff, but I personally liked having shorter shifts. I know some people like having longer shifts because it means they make more money, but to me that was a good thing. So if you don't like standing on your feet all day, or you just want to have like short shifts, the shifts were usually 4 to 5 hours at the most. A lot of the things I didn't like about working for Justice have more to do with like retail in general and not so much with the company. But there were things about the company also that I didn't like. One of the most obvious things in retail is that you have to deal with difficult customers sometimes. Like, luckily, like 95% of the customers were very pleasant. If they had questions, they were like very nice about it. They weren't like demanding or anything. But occasionally you will get a customer that's difficult, kind of rude. Sometimes they'll argue with you about things that aren't in your control, which can be really frustrating, but it's just part of it, and you have to learn how to deal with it. I definitely encountered experiences where customers would come in and be kind of rude, and you have to like learn how to control your frustration and still be polite and courteous and try to just diffuse the situation as much as you can. Also, another con is like, because there are a lot of kids that come into the store, they make a mess. They, throw the clothes all over the place. They don't put things back. Like with the little accessory type things, they just like take them all out and throw them all over the place. So when there's kids running around the store, you generally do have to clean up a lot of this stuff. Another thing is that you are going to be on your feet a lot. You're going to be like walking back and forth across the store or just standing around. So you are on your feet a lot. That was something I really didn't like because I have problems with my feet, my legs, and everything. So standing for that long was really, really hard on me. Another thing is that they don't really play like the radio in their store. They play this thing called Justice TV. They have a TV in their store and they play music videos, but they play the same ones over and over. And it's like Disney type stuff. Like they play One Direction and they play Taylor Swift and stuff like that. And they play like the same, 20 songs over and over and over again. So eventually it gets kind of annoying. And sometimes like they would have the music turned up so loud that like if the phone rang and I had to answer the phone, I could barely hear what the person was saying to me. And that was always really annoying. Or like a customer would come in and I feel like I'm shouting at them because the music is so loud. So yeah, the music gets kind of annoying after a while, to be honest. Another thing I didn't really like was your title is brand rep, which stands for brand representative, and they basically treated it as though you were like a salesman, which you're not, because you're not working on commission. And it was annoying because they would expect you to push like a certain product, like, oh, we're having like a competition to see who can sell the most of these sweaters today, or like really push these sweaters, like I'd like you to sell 10 of them today. And it was annoying because it's like, I'm not a salesman. Like they would expect us to be able to meet these goals, and sometimes they have like little competitions where you win a prize if you get the most or whatever. But I never like accomplished what they asked me to do. Like if they wanted me to sell 10 sweaters that day, I might sell like 2. It was a little bit annoying that they treated the position like something other than what it was, and it was annoying that they told us to basically act like salespeople and we're not even working on commission. So that was a little bit annoying. If your shift is 5 hours or less, you only get a 15-minute break, which to me was like way too short. That was enough time for me to go to the bathroom and then maybe get something to eat, like if I brought a snack with me. Because like I know some people would go out and go to the food court and like they didn't even have time to eat it by the time they came back. Like 15 minutes went by like that. And like especially like I said, with standing on your feet all day, I needed like 20 minutes because like my feet were so sore and I really needed to sit down, and 15 minutes just like isn't long enough. Like I think if you are working for 4 or 5 hours, you should get like a 20-minute break at least. So for me, the breaks were too short. Another thing that was really annoying for me was when clothes were put up on really high shelves. Basically, to get things off of like the really high shelves, you have to use a grabber thing. And like I said, I have some problems, like orthopedic problems and things like that. And for me, it was really hard to like go like this and like stretch. I actually pulled a muscle in my back one time, and my back hurt for like 2 or 3 days after that because I pulled a muscle stretching with that thing, and I absolutely hated that grabber thing. For me, I just could never master it. It was really difficult for me to like hook it. Basically, you would try to hook it on a hanger and then take it off, and I could just never get it. So that was something that was really irritating for me, and I always had to ask someone else to help me with that because I could just never get it. That kind of relates to this next thing with sizing. Basically, with all the clothes, they want it to be sized from the smallest size to the largest size. Basically, when the clothes were all messed up, you had to resize them. And if there was stuff on the hanger, like if a customer came over and said, I want a size 14 of that hoodie, you had to take the grabber and like go, you know, try to find the size 14, or you'd have to take them down like a few at a time until you got to the 14, then give it to the customer, and then if they decide they don't want it, you have to put it back, and then you have to like make sure they're all in the right order of size again, and you're trying to like do it with this grabber thing. And for me, it was just so frustrating. And the sizing, I mean, I understand why you'd want the sizes to be in the correct order, but the thing is that customers, like every 5 minutes, were taking out the clothes, so they were never going to be in the right order for more than like 10 minutes at a time. So you are constantly resizing the clothes. Things that Justice does specifically that I did not like. Some of their store policies, if you're a brand rep, when they are training you, they tell you like specific things to say to greet customers. So like basically when a customer walks in, if you just say, hey, how are you, can I help you, they can just say yes or no, and usually it's no, and then they can just walk away and you never engage with them. So they train you to ask certain questions that they have to answer, like, who are you shopping for today? What occasion brings you in today? Or things like that. So they have to say like, oh, I'm shopping for my granddaughter. My granddaughter is going to the school dance, whatever. And that engages you, because if they say like, my granddaughter is going to the school dance, you could say, oh, we have all of our party dresses over here. So I get why they give you these specific sayings to say, because it forces you to engage with the customer and show them the merchandise, and then they're more likely to buy something. But it was so unnatural for me, like, because like sometimes I would get like weird responses. Like one time this lady came in and I said, hi, who are you shopping for today? And she goes, my child. Like I was an idiot for not knowing, and she said it like in this really sarcastic way. So I don't know, it was just so unnatural, because usually you walk into a store and they say like, hey, can I help you with anything? And so it felt very unnatural, and I mean, it did help with engaging more with customers, but eventually I kind of just stopped saying that because it was just so unnatural. Another thing is that a lot of times they do something called a floor set, which is where it's basically how they arrange all of the merchandise on the floor. And when I was like first working there, they only did it like once a month maybe, or something like that. But it seemed like the longer I was there, especially probably around holiday times, they rearranged the store like every week, and it was annoying. I never had to participate in the floor sets, but the thing that was annoying was that customers would come in, even like regular customers that were there all the time, suddenly didn't know where anything was, and then they would ask me, and I wouldn't know where it was because they moved it. I don't really understand how moving stuff around helps people buy more stuff anyway. I don't think it really does anything, and it just made it more annoying for customers trying to find stuff, and it made it annoying for me because I couldn't even do my job, because I was supposed to know where stuff was, and I didn't even know where stuff was if they kept moving it all the time, and it was very frustrating. Another thing is they have these things called zones, which is basically your placement in the store. The front is the front, and then the middle is called the heart, and then the back is called the cash wrap, where the cash registers are. And basically at the beginning of the shift, you meet up with either your manager or what's called an LBR, which is a lead brand rep. So they're like one step above you basically. And they just tell you what the goals are of the day, and they tell you what zone you are assigned to. And so if you're assigned to cash wrap, you basically are supposed to stay there unless someone from the front says like, I'm going on break, can you watch the front of the store for me until I get back? or if you were assigned to the front of the store, you were supposed to stay in the front of the store. And that was fine if there were at least 3 people working, but a lot of times it was me and like one other person working. So if I was assigned to the front of the store, I basically had to kind of keep an eye on both the front and the heart. So I'm kind of walking back and forth between zones. Sometimes like the LBRs or the manager would like tell me to like stay in my zone, which was kind of annoying because like if there's a customer over there, then I need to go over there and talk to them over there. And like sometimes there would be like nothing to do, like if there's no one in the front of the store, so I'm like looking around, there's no one there, so I'm like, oh, the clearance section is always a mess, I'll go clean up over there, which is in the back of the store, but I kind of keep my eye on the front, and there's only like one other person there, so it's like, you know, there can't be everyone everywhere, so I'm in the back, you know, trying to clean up, and then I would get told like to go to the front again, and it's like, well, I'm the only one that would ever clean up the clearance section. So the clearance section was always a mess because no one ever cleaned it except for me, and they never like let me because that wasn't my zone. So I thought that was kind of like counterproductive. Like, you know, I'm actually trying to do something productive, like trying to clean something up, and they would tell me not to because that wasn't the zone I was assigned to. And I saw similar reviews of that like elsewhere too, where people said that they would get yelled at for not being in their zone, even though it's kind of impossible to stay in one place the whole time, especially when there's no customers. It's just counterproductive to be like, well, you gotta stay in this one spot even if there's a customer in the next zone. So that to me just never made sense. I think the reason why they do zones is to minimize theft, because if there's one person in each section of the store, there's someone always keeping an eye on the customers. So I get it, but like it only works when there's at least one person for each zone. It was very rare in my experience that there were ever enough people for each zone. It was always like me and one other person. So I kind of had to go between like all 3 zones, but to me it's just not realistic when there's only like 2 people working in the store to expect them to stay in like one section of the store. Another thing is these things called J-Buck and Fun Cards. Basically like rewards cards. It's when the customer spends at least $50, they earn a J-Buck and a Fun Card, and the only difference between the two is that they just have different redemption periods. But basically, it's like cards that can be used on a future purchase. It's like $50 off a $100 purchase or something like that, and they just have to use it within the redemption period. But this is like something that customers could never understand. If they were using a J-Buck or a Fun Card, a lot of times there's sales going on. If they're using those cards, they have to buy everything at regular price, because if we allowed them to get $50 off of a purchase and they're buying everything at sale prices, we'd be giving stuff away. And for some reason, every time we explain this to customers, they never understood it. So customers found them frustrating, and the employees found them frustrating because customers found them frustrating. So I don't think it's an issue that they have these, but I really think they need to do something about the policy. Like, maybe don't have sales going on during the redemption period for the cards or something, because it just confused people, and people like would get mad. Like sometimes, it never happened to me, but sometimes they would blame, like when we told them like, no, you have to buy everything at regular price, they would get mad at the people telling them that, even though we don't make the rules. So just the way that they made them work was very annoying to basically everyone. Pretty much everything in the store has glitter or sparkles on it. So basically, when you went home later that night, you would always be covered in sparkles, which is annoying because like it's really hard to get off. Like if you have it on your face especially, like it's like always there somehow. So that was a little bit annoying to like come home and you're always covered in glitter. And the really annoying thing was that some of their clothes are made out of like some kind of slippery material, like their leggings and some of their sweaters are made out of some really slippery material. I don't know what the material is, but it made it impossible to fold the clothes. It was annoying because they would tell you to fold the sweaters or fold the leggings, and you have them all in a pile, and they wouldn't stay in a pile because they would slip around everywhere. And it was like, how are we supposed to fold these and make it like look neat when they don't stay? And even the people that were like above me, like the managers and stuff like that, even they complained about how ridiculous it was. Here is the one last con that I have. I don't know if other places do this or not, but Justice was the first time I'd ever heard of something like this. They have things called call-ins, and basically a call-in is a shift that you are tentatively scheduled for. And like, so if you're tentatively scheduled for 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, basically like an hour beforehand, you call the store, speak to the manager, and you ask if you are needed, and they will tell you yes or no. And like 95% of the time, it's no. And it's really annoying because you basically can't make plans that day because you might have to work. And most of the time they end up not needing you. Like basically they do it because they're not sure how busy they're going to be that day. So they just kind of tell you to be prepared, like on call to come in. And most of the time it ends up not being busy enough that they need you. It was like one time maybe that I actually needed to come in. And it was annoying because it's like either schedule people or don't. It was very inconvenient for people that could have, you know, made plans to do something else. You know, if you're going to schedule somebody, then that's fine, but it's really inconvenient towards people when you say that you might need them and then 95% of the time you end up not needing them.